I am Dr. Murtaza Samin and today I will present a case of young female with sudden unilateral visual obscuration. My patient, 24-year-old lady, presented with a history of sudden painless superior altitudinal visual obscuration in right eye for 2 hours. The visual loss was neither associated with any specific pattern of progression nor with pain, redness, watering, photophobia, floaters, flashes of light, vertigo, or tinnitus. This was her first episode with no significant past history of transient visual loss, use of glasses, glaucoma, trauma, or any other ocular surgery. There was no known history of hypertension, diabetes, congenital or acquired heart disease, rash, joint pain, hearing loss, or any other neurological illness. Personal history, family history, and drug history was non contributory. On general physical examination, my patient was a young female of thin build, conscious, cooperative, well oriented in time, place, and person with stable vital signs. Systemic examination was unremarkable. On ocular examination, Sinellin's visual acuity though was 6 by 6 in both eyes, but she hardly had perception of light in both superior quadrants of right eye. Visual field examination performed by confrontation method revealed visual field loss in both supratemporal and supranasal quadrants. On ocular examination, there was relative afferent pupillary defect in right eye, while rest of the anterior segment examination of right eye and left eye was unremarkable. On posterior segment examination of the right eye, that revealed a diffuse ground glass haze starting at the inferior margin of the disc, extending down along the arcades and involving the inferior half of the macula. But fovea was spared. Retinal arterioles appeared to be slightly attenuated, and there was an ill-defined whitish yellowish area just infranasal to the center of the optic disc at bifurcation of the nasal and temporal retinal artery, raising a suspicion of embolus which was later on confirmed by fundus fluorescent angiography. The superior arcades and superior half of the fundus appears to be normal with normal foveal reflex, while the posterior segment examination of the left eye was unremarkable. Intraocular pressure measured with applanation tonometer was 14 mm of mercury in right eye and 12 in left eye. So on the basis of history and examination, a provisional diagnosis of right inferior hemiretinal arterial occlusion was made. As soon as the provisional diagnosis of retinal artery occlusion was established, ocular massage was started immediately along with topical anti-glaucoma medications and sublingual glyceryl trinitrate. After 15 minutes of ocular massage, when the condition did not improve, anterior chamber paracentesis was done to lower the IOP, which was repeated after 15 minutes, but still the restoration of retinal circulation could not be achieved. Patient was planned for YAG laser embolysis. As this picture can be associated, as this procedure can be associated with significant complications, immediate fundus fluorescent angiography was carried out to confirm retinal artery occlusion and localize the exact position of the embolus. This is the FFA of right eye in arterial phase at 15 seconds, revealing complete filling of superior arterioles while absence of fluorescence along the inferior branch of central retinal artery. This is the angiogram of the mid phase showing complete filling in the superior arcade while the laminar flow just started in the inferior veins. In addition to this, there is masking of choroidal glow in the inferior half. This is angiogram of late venous phase showing laminar flow along with inferior retinal veins. So there was an arteriovenous delay of about 15 to 20 seconds along the inferior retinal vasculature. Other than that, an embolus can also be seen clearly on the disc. After confirming the presence of embolus on fundus fluorescent angiogram, a successful YAG embolysis was performed. Patient was counseled about the nature of the disease, the likely prognosis, and the most probable underlying cause of ocular manifestation. She was urgently referred to medical specialist, neurophysician, and cardiologist to know the systemic cause of the disease. She was also advised to have regular follow-up with us. Patient was admitted by a medical specialist and neurophysician for further systemic workup, and following systemic investigations were done, but the etiology of thromboembolism could not be determined. So this slide shows the comparison of fundus photograph on day 7 and day 1. We can see that normal architecture of the retina has restored. This slide shows comparison of the visual field 30-2 of patient on day 3 and day 7, showing marked improvement in sensitivity of the superior half. And this slide shows comparison of FFA in arterial phase on day 1 and day 7. We can see that on day 7 there is comparable filling of superior and inferior halves. And this is the FFA of late venous phase. We can appreciate that the embolus is no more on day 7. So follow-up was done for 6 months and patient remained asymptomatic. So I would conclude that anti-YAG embolectomy can be a great help in restoring circulation in selected patients of retinal artery occlusion. With this, I thank you all.